Welcome to the Family Law Growth Podcast. We interview the nation's fastest growing family law firms to get insights on what is working today. We leave no stone unturned, from intake to the biggest mistakes they've made while scaling to multi-7 figures and 8 figures. I'm your host, Elliot, co-founder of Empirical 360. Let's dive into the episode. All right, so welcome to another episode of the Family Law Growth Podcast. I'm Elliot, your host, and joined with me is Erik, the other co-founder of Empirical 360. And so today we're going to talk about the tale of 4 law firms. And the goal of today's episode is to give people an idea of what growth looks like from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 5 million, 5 million to 10 million, and 10 million plus when it comes to growing your family law firm. So what we're going to talk about is what would we do if we were running these firms for marketing and for sales. This will hopefully give you an idea of what your priorities should be and how aggressive you need to be at every level, because most of the time, people don't know what it takes to build a $20 million family law firm. And we've seen it happen multiple times. So we're able to shed some light on that. So Erik, where are we going to start?
We're going to start with 0 to 1. So Elliot, you are trying to cross the 7-figure mark with your family law firm. What does your marketing and sales team look like? What are you trying to do? What are you focused on? What's important to you? What's not important to you? Let's answer those questions.
So if I'm at 0 to 1 million, I would say the most important thing for me is sales. Get as many sales as possible. And what I would do specifically, it's going to depend on my risk tolerance, right? So I'm going to talk about people who are a little more willing to take risk, and then I'll talk about people who are a little more risk averse. So if I'm willing to take risks, I might just hire an agency right out of the gate. That sounds self-serving. But the reason I would hire an agency is because ideally they have playbooks of what to do exactly. And I can plug myself into years and years of testing and tried and true methods to actually scale. Now, the only problem with that is at $1 million and under, it's going to take up a good amount of your income unless you're in the high 6 figures. And so it's going to leave a little bit less money for ads, which we need ads. But again, you're going to trade experience and a little bit more certainness, hopefully, for a little bit less caseload, but you'll be able to scale later. So if I'm willing to hire an agency, I would hire an agency, and I would make sure that that agency is telling me to do paid ads mainly, because that's going to get people in the door today.
Yep.
I need money today.
Yep.
Under $1 million. Maybe I'll do SEO. Maybe. Long term, I want to do it. But right now, it might not be a priority. And so that's probably what my marketing would look like if I was hiring an agency. Now, what my sales process would look like under $1 million is I would probably be the head salesperson. And I would probably hire an intake company to do my calls. Why would I do that? An internal person is going to be more expensive for that kind of call volume in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be able to work 24/7, and they're not going to be able to work weekends. And you're going to pay them more than they're worth in the beginning.
So would you have this intake person? So you're the CEO, chief sales officer, chief marketing officer of your firm right now. That intake company, would you make sure that the intake company asks like 20 to 30 questions to really qualify them before they get on your calendar? Like ask about income, assets, kids, all the things, or what would that script look like for the answering service to get qualified prospects on your calendar?
So at this level, I'm trying to create as much flow as possible before I create friction. So once my calendar is completely filled up for days and days and days, mm-hmm. I'm not creating any friction. That would be my first goal, is stay as busy as possible with sales calls. So what I would have the intake company do is answer simple questions, contact information, what's going on? Is it an MQL? So is it in my area, and is it in a practice area I can help? And then I would have them put them on my calendar. The big tip here is for an intake company, don't have them take a message, have them put them on the calendar. That's the key. And so the reason I would skip hiring a person again at this level is you're not going to have as much call volume, and an intake company is going to cost probably, if I had to ballpark it, under $3K a month.
Yeah, 500 to 1,000 probably.
Yeah, probably pretty cheap. So that would be a really lean operation if I have an agency, an intake company, and I'm the chief sales officer. Now, let's say that I don't want to hire an agency. Maybe my revenue is a little bit lower. What I would do at this level is I would run LSA.
But wait, Elliot, I tried LSA. The first 5 leads I had, they sucked, they were expensive, and I turned it off immediately.
Yeah. So until you have 100 leads and you go for broke on 100 calls, you don't know what you don't know.
But I'm used to, like, when I get referrals, I close these at 30, 50%. So if I get 3 calls, I should get 1 sale. Is that right for LSA?
Unfortunately, no. So because most firms are used to running on referrals, you're pretty much a cashier.
Mm-hmm.
They come to you, they swipe their card happily, and they become a client, and no muss, no fuss, they're on board. And that usually can close very high, and that's how most firms grow. However, if I'm building from the ground up and I have no referrals, the expectation I need to go into LSAs with is I'm going to close 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
Which means 9 people are not good leads.
And then 1 is.
Yeah. How does that feel?
Doesn't feel good. If I had 9 bad calls in a row, that would suck. I'd
Yeah.
probably pause LSA too.
And so the hard part, right, is if you're running LSA and you get really lucky and you close your first deal, amazing. It's kind of like winning at the casino the first time. It's a little bit dangerous. But the expectation going in is talking to 9 people. What that actually is going to feel like is bad call, wasted 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Bad call, maybe wasted 45 minutes. Bad call, maybe wasted another 45 minutes. Bad call, bad call, bad call. And the hard part about this is not quitting. If you quit, it's a guaranteed fail. There are firms that have built to 20 million on LSA alone.
The 3 biggest firms that we work with, the majority of their ad spend goes towards local service ads.
Okay.
But Elliot, so you did pick those. So you said if they can't afford an agency or just don't have that risk tolerance, pick LSA. Why not pay-per-click? Why not Facebook ads? Why not SEO? Why LSA specifically?
Good question. So the reason why we wouldn't want to do pay-per-click is because pay-per-click is a little more work intensive. You're going to need landing pages and you're going to need some sort of web developer and you're going to need tracking. That requires expertise and skills. Pay-per-click is also going to drive form leads. And when somebody fills out a contact form, you now have to call those people.
Yep.
And if you don't have the bandwidth, and as a solo, you probably don't, who's calling those leads? And that usually makes up 30 to 40% of your volume.
Wow.
And so right there, you're losing 30 to 40% of your leads unless you're calling them in under 5 minutes.
Also, as the name says, it is pay-per-click. You're not paying for leads. LSA, you pay for leads, so you're guaranteed to get something every time money leaves your bank account. With pay-per-click, you can have a bad ad, a bad landing page.
Yep.
And you have to pay to learn what works, what doesn't work. And
Yeah.
that can be expensive.
And same with Meta, same with all the other things, right? They're going to require more skilled people to implement.
But Elliot, I'm below $1 million, and there's some good SEO companies out there, and that's free leads, free traffic. Why wouldn't I focus on that instead?
Yeah. I mean, so SEO is amazing and you need to do it long term. But if I need business today, I need to focus on sources that are going to bring me leads literally today. I can turn LSAs on today and get leads today. SEO may take you 6 months, 9 months, a year. The way I had SEO explained recently that was really, really helpful is imagine that we started a race and you started 5 years ago and you're running at 10 miles an hour. And I start today and I'm running at 10 miles an hour. Am I ever going to catch you?
In a long time.
I never catch you. You're going 10 miles an hour.
Yeah,
I'm never
even if you went 20 miles per hour, it'd take a long time.
It's going to take forever. Even if I go 30 miles an hour, which means I'm paying the agency way more money, it's going to take a long time to close that gap.
That's the point.
And so for me, SEO is super important. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things. But today, if I need business, I'm not choosing it as my main source. Another big thing for LSA is that it takes like 15 minutes to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need any knowledge of how Google works.
Yep.
And you select the practice areas you want and you literally get leads, and you can even dispute and return leads and get your money back.
Yep.
So if I'm running it, I'm still running the same sales structure. I'm still hiring an intake company and they're putting meetings on my calendar, and I'm creating as much flow before I create friction as possible. And I'm going to run that for as long as possible until I break. So like I'm going to court, I'm doing sales calls, I'm working all the hours of the day. I have a predictable engine. Now I'm going to hire an attorney to start getting myself out of that world, if that's my goal. Or if I love being an attorney, maybe I'm hiring a salesperson. It really depends on what I prefer. All right, I hope you're enjoying the episode. So if you are struggling to grow your family law firm and you would love to be in the room with other 7-figure and 8-figure family law firms, like some of the guests we have on this podcast, go ahead and click the link in the description and you can learn about our workshops that we do. So we do workshops every single quarter with family law firms where we dive into marketing and non-attorney sales specifically for family law firms. Now, what's awesome about these workshops is you get to learn from people actually doing it, so 8-figure family law firm owners, and then you get to break off into small groups and pick the brain of the subject matter experts that actually do the function that you're trying to solve for. So if you want to come to one of our workshops, go ahead and book a call. We'll chat about it. I'll let you know when the next one is and see if it's worth coming out to.
I want to touch on something that Elliot talked about there. He's talking about a lot of strategy here. And for a long time, strategy was a cool word, but we'd never heard anyone define it. And Alex Ramosi gave a great definition. Strategy is how we allocate our limited resources against unlimited options. So I was asking Elliot intentionally about the different sources. So SEO works, right? People make money off SEO. Social media, do you have people who make money off social media?
For sure.
PPC?
Yep.
LSA?
Yep.
They all work. Limited time, limited resources, especially below $1 million. And so make sure you're putting your limited resources into the highest leverage bucket. And again, that is a little bit personal based on your risk tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we see here is like, I think if you go in with the mindset, no matter what, if I'm growing my business, I just can't quit. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Because if those don't work, I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, you got to make them work.
Yeah. And the other thing is if you're going in with the limited resources, unlimited options type scenario, which you are, solos and smaller business owners tend to want to solve all their problems in one shot with one silver bullet. Yeah. And it doesn't exist. There's no chatbot, there's no AI, there's no LLM, there's no nothing that's coming to save you. You got to get calls and you got to turn those calls into paying clients, period.
Amazing. One other thing on below 1 million, and probably for all of the law firms that we're going to talk about today, is stack Google reviews. Even if you don't have an SEO company, if you have an SEO company, if you don't have an SEO company, the highest leverage thing you can do for local SEO is stack Google reviews. And so in that example that Ellie gave earlier, those 9 bad leads that he talked to get to the one good lead, all of those are review opportunities. If you get someone for pro bono, refer them to pro bono services, ask them to rate their experience. If you get someone calling in for criminal defense, refer them to your buddy who does criminal defense, ask them to rate their experience. Just stack Google reviews. It'll help your local service ads. It'll help your SEO. It'll help your pay-per-click. It helps everything, and it actually brings in business.
Yeah. And just so you know what that conversation sounds like, you finish your consultation or your case evaluation and you pretty much say, hey, I hope you found this call valuable. Was this something that you were able to actually get some value from?
Yes.
Great. I'm so happy to hear that because that's honestly my number one goal for these calls. If you wouldn't mind though, because it really helps me help other families just like yours, could you leave me a Google review?
Yeah, of course.
Great. I'm going to shoot you a text right now. Let me know if the link.
Now?
Yeah, let me know if the link. Yeah, let me know if the link hits you.
Sure.
Okay, great. You got the link.
I'm actually not signed into my Google profile. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Depends how pushy you want to be. But you get the idea. If you go for the Google review on the call and you actually text on the call, you're way more likely to get it. Because how many times have you told somebody you're going to leave them a review and you didn't?
A lot.
Yeah, it's hurtful, right?
Most of the time.
So anyway, that would be what that conversation sounds like. And by the way, there's a firm that we work with that's gotten like 50 Google reviews in 3 weeks doing just that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you have more case evaluations than you do happy clients, so that's where you should ask for reviews.
Yep. If you wait till the case settles, they might not be happy, and it's going to take a year.
You feel awkward asking for it at that point.
Yeah. So all right, we've talked about 0 to 1 million, and it's definitely a hard place, and it's going to require some sacrifice. You're going to have to work more because you're wearing the sales guy hat. You're doing a little bit of marketing. Maybe you're doing a little reception. You're also being a lawyer, and you're also doing everything else. So. Sorry, if people aren't telling anyone this, you're going to work a lot.
Yep.
It's just the way it is.
It's going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to suck. So I'm putting you in charge, Erik. I'm hiring you as my CMO. I'm hiring you as my CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, fancy title.
Ooh.
And I'm at the 1 to 5 million range. You come into my firm, and you can ask me some questions, by the way, for context of my firm. What are you doing in your first 90 days?
The first thing I would do, and forget 90 days, in the first half an hour I'm with you, is I need to know what we can pay to acquire a customer. This will serve all of the next stages.
Okay.
But we got to know it now because you've gone from 0 to 1 million. You have some cases. You can run some numbers on what those cases look like. So how much money, let me ask Elliot, how much money does your law firm make per divorce?
I'm going to give you the answer everybody gives me, and then I'll tell you what the real answer should be.
Okay.
I'm going to say, well, it's impossible to know because we have some cases that are worth 100,000 and we have some cases that are worth 3,000.
Okay, and what's the correct answer?
The correct answer is you take all your cases, you export them, and you remove the outliers. So let's say I have one $100,000 case.
Or one personal injury settlement.
Or one personal injury.
Take that out of there.
So I remove the outliers. What are the normal cases that I can predictably get off of internet channels? And I count how much revenue I got from them, and I divide it by the total number of cases.
Cool.
And so I did that, Eric, and I am making on average around $11,370 from each of my divorce clients.
11,000. And so what would you be willing to pay? And I want you to give me the highest number, because remember, the person who can afford the highest cost of acquisition wins. That's why Morgan & Morgan can put his name anywhere and make money. So I want you to give me the highest number you're willing to pay to get an $11,000 case. So pretty much picture this. There is a machine in front of you. How much money are you willing to put in for it to spit out $11,000 for you? The max number. The largest number.
Well, I don't know. How would I find that number? I don't know what
Good question.
my staff cost, and I don't know.
You may have to, it'll take some digging. You'll have to work with maybe your accountant, your CFO, or just you get with ChatGPT and chat about it for a really long time. But pretty much what I would do is I would figure out your full cost of delivery, your full fixed cost, how much profit you want to make, which by the way is different for every firm. If you're a single owner of a law firm, you may make money with 15% profit. If you have 3 owners, you may need 35% profit. It's different for each firm. But how much profit do you need? And then how much money is left over to acquire that revenue?
So let's say that I'm in an aggressive phase of growth.
Okay.
And I really want to build up. And I'm willing, because I have a little nest egg, to go down to a 15% profit margin. So I got, 85% left over. And let's say that my cost of goods is...
Here, let me put in a spreadsheet.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Let's say my cost of goods is like 65%. I don't know where I pull that number. I do know where I pull that number. Generally, attorneys bill like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. Like that's what you pay them, and then that's what they'll make. So let's just say 1 to 3. So let's say I'm at like 65% cost of goods. Keep this nice and clean example.
And my 15% profit.
I want 15% profit, and my overhead is really low because we're virtual and I don't have any middle management that are non-billers.
Okay.
It's just me right now.
So just cost of goods sold and just profit you want to make, and then the rest you're going to put in marketing.
Sure.
It's a bit much.
How much is it?
It's 20%.
Okay, all right. Let's say I have 10% overhead.
Let's give it, yeah, sure. 10%.
So with that overhead, I have like a firm administrator. And
so now you're willing to pay 10% of revenue to acquire a customer. So you're willing to pay, that's easy numbers. So you're willing to pay $1,100 to acquire a new customer.
Can you tell me what that means?
So you spend money on Google ads. You spend money on Facebook ads. You spend money, well, Google ads specifically pay-per-click. You spend money on local service ads. You spend money on your agency. And out of all of that money, when you divide it by the number of sales you have per month, it should be $1,100 or lower.
Okay.
And now let me give you another example, actually, because we talked to a lawyer the other day at one of our in-person client events. She had a $30,000 case value. Her current cost of acquisition was $700. And she was asking the question, how can I get that lower? And she was actually in this exact phase. This is the 1 to 5 million. And we told her you shouldn't worry about getting lower. You may even ask Christopher Anderson, asked her, you may even want to get that higher and figure out where you can deploy money to get even more sales, like boosting your sales process, all those things. But that should be a scale number. But in her scenario, what was really cool is if she had these same ratios, which are good ratios, she could pay $3,000 to acquire a customer. That would give her marketing superpowers. She can get way more aggressive on PPC. She can get way more aggressive on social. She could probably even do billboards, and everybody in the town will wonder, how is she growing so much faster than us? And it's because she knows her numbers. Most firms I've heard a big range can make money around like 600% ROI, 700% ROI. And the example you gave me, you're looking for a 10X. 10X is great, but if it doesn't have to be, you can make money quicker.
Okay, so it's your first day here as my chief revenue officer, Eric. And so far we've done a fun exercise. I now say I can pay $1,100 to acquire a customer. And that's just media. We're not talking about intake people or marketing people. Let's just call it media for now, for things to be simple. There's also like a fully loaded cost of acquisition, but whatever. So what do? It's day 1.5 now.
How many? So what is your goal, Elliot? You just crossed 1 million. Well, we're in the 1 to 5 range. So what is your goal revenue?
So I would love to double this year.
Okay. And actually, just give me your exact revenue right now.
I'm at 2 million.
2 million. So you want to double, you want to get to 4.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So we have $11,000 average case value. You're currently at 2 million, and you want an extra $2 million from my efforts, right?
Yep.
Cool. And you need an ROI goal of 10x. So you can afford $1,100 cost of acquisition. So off of that, all in, you can afford a $107 lead. That's if you're closing 1 out of 10 leads. And in order to get there, you need to spend about $16,000 a month between ads, vendors, and everything like that. Off of that $16,666 to be exact, you need monthly 155 leads. If you're booking case evaluations at 70%, you need 108 appointments booked. If they're showing at 70%, since they're free, you need 76 to show up, and then you need 15 additional signed clients to bridge the gap for the extra 2 million. And so weekly, if you were to break that down to a scorecard, you need to spend 3,800 a week, you need 36 leads a week, you need 25 bookings, you need 17 appointments, and you need 3 sales. So if I was your chief marketing officer, those would be the numbers I would track for you weekly. And the top 4 numbers, spend, leads, appointments, and appointments showed up, I would be very concerned if after a week or 2 they're off track. Sales are off track after 3 to 4 weeks. I'd give it a little bit of time. Sales can be a lagging indicator, but that's exactly what I do for you at a high level.
So let's say that we do all of that, but you're in charge of my whole acquisition process. What do I need for intake? What do I need for sales? What should that look like? And how do I do that?
So yeah, in the 1 to 5 million range, this is when I would start to build a sales team. I would prioritize sales people over intake people.
Why?
Intake is a much simpler process. Like you gave in the example of 0 to 1 million, that exact script will still work. I would take every single prospect, grab the bare minimum information, contact information, divorce in our area, great, and put them on sales calendar. So that's a very easy thing to still pay for. It's easy to scale, but salespeople are a lot more difficult. They actually take time to ramp. 1 or 2 might not work out. So it takes a lot longer to figure that out, and it takes a lot more of a skilled individual, and I would start investing in that now. And usually, as soon as you get your first good salesperson, that's a huge unlock because now you have your pace car. Now you also not only have your pace car, but you have the belief that it's going to work. We've seen it before. We have clients that their salespeople get 20, 30, and some will even get 40 sales themselves a month, and now forever they believe that non-attorney sales can grow their firm. And that's a big unlock for this level. So if I was structuring your team, depending on my budget and my risk tolerance, I would prioritize salespeople. I would still do free case evaluations, and I would put every case evaluation on the salesperson's calendar. If a salesperson only wants to talk to the good leads, they're not a good salesperson. The sale starts at the first no, and a salesperson who's hungry, who has a good comp structure, will want to talk to everyone so they can squeeze as much out of the pipeline as possible. We'll get picky later. And so that's how I'd structure your sales team.
Really quick, you said something in there. What does it mean, a pace car?
So what I mean by a pace car is some firms don't even believe that non-attorney sales is possible. So they'll immediately break that belief for you. They will set an example for other salespeople for what their close rate should look like, what their conversations should look like, and overall just establish the KPIs that you can hold other salespeople that come to your firm accountable to. So they'll unlock the belief, they'll set the standards, and we've seen it happen time and time again with clients. They finally get a really good salesperson. It changes the firm, it changes all their new hires, and just unlocks the growth they're actually looking for.
Okay, so far what we've done here, you're my chief revenue officer. I'm pretty pleased with your performance.
This is day 1 too.
Yeah, this is day 1. You've told me what I could pay to acquire a customer. You've structured my intake and sales team. What marketing channels are you going to use for me at this level? And I'm at $2 million.
At this point, I'm going omni-channel. Like I said, I still will be very strategic about how I allocate my ad dollars, but I will start investing long term. So I would want SEO going for you. And what I mean by SEO, because people think SEO is this like black box that, you know, people pull these levers and do all these AI and robotic things and magical things happen in the back end, and it's not that. I would be adding location-specific pages to your website. So all of the cities I target, not the cities where we have offices in, I would have a page for those about divorce. And I would start with divorce in the beginning because those are the cases that I want. I wouldn't really be writing a lot of child support content. I really wouldn't be writing a lot of modification content unless I really want those cases. I'd be very focused on the types of cases that I'm getting from local service ads and pay-per-click. I want to recreate those on SEO. I'd also do some blogging and backlinks for positioning of the website. And then I'd be really prioritizing our map profile. Maps are higher than the website ranking. So I'd be getting reviews. I'd be getting citations for my map profile. I'd be posting content to my map profile, and just overall would make sure it's as built out as possible.
So how would you get more reviews?
So at this level, I would do exactly what we talked about. It's 0 to 1. Every case eval, every bad lead is a review opportunity, or every lead that doesn't even work out is a review opportunity. So that's how I would tell my team. And at this point, since I'm starting to build out an intake and sales team, I would put, this is not legal advice, I put some sort of incentive in their comp structure for Google reviews. So the salesperson knows they get on their call, either I'm going to close this prospect and make money, or I'm going to get a review and make money. But every single call I can make money on.
Okay, so you're doing PPC, LSA, SEO. Are you doing social, and what are you spending on the channels?
Absolutely. So I am. So in addition to SEO, I am doing social. Specifically, I would do a lot of video. If you see a lot of the firms that just post graphics monthly, it's like them and their family liking it, and it's not doing much for them. It probably makes them feel good because the graphics look great. I know they make me feel good when I see ours. That's probably all they do. I would do a lot of video. At this point, you can afford an agency. So I'd find an agency probably to take care of a lot of the organic and the video for me. And I would be doing a lot of YouTube videos for SEO and a lot of thought leadership content. And I would do a lot of short form content from that thought leadership content as well. What I would not do, Elliot, is I would not do at this point, unless you really like it and it's fun for you. But from a business perspective, I wouldn't do dances. I wouldn't do trendy sounds. I wouldn't do things that the influencers are doing. I would do things that matter to my potential customers, because the whole goal of our social media presence is to nurture all the people researching us and searching for divorce in our area. And so I'd make sure the content that I'm producing is very valuable to them and attracts more of them.
But I really, really want to like do podcasts and write a book and do all kinds of cool stuff. Should I be doing that at this level?
Short answer, no, unless you want to.
Okay, why?
Limited resources against unlimited options. Right now, the goal is we put $1,100 in, we get $11,000 out. Anything that takes us away from that goal is a distraction at this point. It's always like Steve Jobs says at Apple, they were a lot more proud of the things that they didn't do than the things that they did.
Okay.
Once you crack 1 million, focus becomes so much more important.
So you've taken me, my new chief revenue officer, you've set up, let's just recap what you've done. We've established what I can pay to acquire a client.
Yep.
Hopefully that number's going up, because why would that number go up?
The number can go up if you start attracting better cases. So either full contested divorces only instead of like a prenup here and maybe a modification there, your average case value can increase. The other reason is if you look at your business economics and your gross margins better than you thought and your fixed costs are better than you thought, then you can pour more into marketing. And then the last part is you may revisit your profit numbers too. So I know we threw numbers out there. Those are all the levers you can pull there.
Okay. What about economy of scale? Are you going to get me those?
Yeah. Economies of scale will happen. And what does Elliot mean by that? So when you start spending a lot of money on ads, all of a sudden you have a lot more visitors to your website. Once you have more visitors to your website, your rankings will increase, because one of the ranking factors is interactions on your website. And so every single time you're pouring money into ads in this ecosystem, you're actually getting more organic traffic, more organic leads, and you're not changing your budget. So your leads are increasing without your budget increasing, which allows you to get a lower cost of acquisition than you were getting before.
And then my fixed costs, hopefully you're staying the same, unless I'm expanding my office, whatever. Okay, cool. So to recap, we are understanding what we can pay to acquire a client. We're making sure that it's profitable for us. We are structuring our intake process with maybe an in-house person, or are we still answering service at this point? It
depends. 1 to 5 million is a big range, so it does depend. If if I had to make it unreasonable that I wouldn't close every single prospect that I could, I would have a world-class intake person. I'd have a world-class salesperson.
Okay.
But again, at this point, limited options or limited resources against unlimited options. So if you're on the lower end of that, I'd probably do intake to salesperson. I'd rather have 2 to 3 salespeople before I actually start hiring intake. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, the other thing too is your salesperson can also double as your intake person.
Yeah, that could be their training ground too.
Yeah. So, okay, so we have answering, however we want to get that done. Pretty much what I would look at for this is when the outsourced company starts costing more than an in-house person, I'm bringing it in-house and I'm still using the outsource to use overflow
weekends. Yep.
So, okay, we have reception to salesperson. We're trying to develop this pace car person, and maybe I have to fire 2 people to find this one magical person.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing PPC, SEO, social media, and we're scaling. Are we spending any money on brand? Like I talked to a branding agency and they do really cool stuff. Should I have my logos and my stuff redone?
Yo, my brutally honest truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at this stage.
Why?
You can pay to get leads and the logo really won't change that.
Also, you know what I found? I mean, this is my personal experience, but unless you're super mission driven, you don't really know what your brand is at this stage.
Yep.
It's going to take time. You're going to take time to develop who you want to work with, who your ideal client avatar is, how you practice, the types of attorneys you want to attract. It's a very moving target. And if you solidify the brand now, you might not like it in a year, and branding is expensive.
Yeah. And it's something I would think about. Like I would always be thinking about my brand. I always want to, and again, you can't measure this on a spreadsheet. I always want to love my logo. I want to love my website. I want to love my colors. But is it important to put a lot of focus on and distract your agency or your internal team on? Absolutely not. The other thing too, to recap, is we did define specific goals. So we talked about the cost of acquisition. We talked about the ROI we need. But we actually have our marching orders. Per month, we need 155 leads in 15 cases, and we know the appointment numbers to get there. And now we know per week, we need 36 leads and 3 hires. And so if you were judging my performance as your chief revenue or your chief marketing officer, when we meet 1 week from today, I better show up with 36 leads. I better show up with 25 appointments. I better show up with 17 showed up, and I better show up with 3 hires. And like I said, the top 4 numbers, and I better spend the money to get there.
Very nice.
And so that would be my immediate plan. Like if you were in charge of me and I was your CRO, that's exactly what I tell you to do for the next week. But you did ask a question earlier. How would I spend the money? So we do have to figure out what the fixed cost of the agency is or our support is to deploy these things. In the beginning, I would go heavy on our paid search channels, your PPC, your LSA. How I would allocate money between those would just all depend on the results. So I would measure my cost of acquisition between those results and just see what's doing better for my firm. And it is, per firm, it is very different. Also, again, like I talked about earlier, the 3 biggest firms that we work with spend the majority of their money on LSA. So I'd probably skew a lot towards LSA since I'm buying leads, but I'd also do pay-per-click. And I would use, at this point, I'm going to use LSA as a blueprint to figure out what type of traffic I really want to go for if I could only get that traffic on pay-per-click, and then what type of traffic we should be writing about for SEO. And that last part there is where most people miss. If your SEO company does not track your leads and your sales and understand what is converting on paid search channels, they are not doing your firm justice. What do I mean by that? SEO traffic is the same as paid search traffic. It's all coming from Google. So if something works on Google ads or local service ads, it will work on SEO. If it does not work in Google ads or SEO, it's probably not worth going for on SEO. That's why earlier I talked about only going for the divorced keywords. And so your SEO company has to know the leads and sales coming from the efforts. They have to be tracking their system. They have to have call roll on the website. They got to be tracking the forms. They got to be asking you those questions. If an SEO company sends you like one of those Moz, Ahrefs, SEM Rush reports and says we did great this month and Google's been changing some things and that's the recap of your meeting, they're not a good SEO company. They should tell you, yes, the front end metrics, how much traffic you're getting from Google Organic, but they better be telling you about the leads and they better be telling you about the sales, or they're just hiding the ball.
Yeah, it's funny. Side story, I audited somebody's SEO. This was about a year ago with one of the biggest SEO agencies. And I was like, well, how many leads are you getting? He said, I don't know. I was like, well, are you tracking your calls? He said, no. I was like, well, what CRM are you using? He's like, we don't have a CRM. It's a $5 million company. And what I thought was, well, clearly they just don't give a shit about
Yeah.
your results because they don't know how many leads you're getting, how many calls you're getting. And the whole purpose of SEO is not page views. Sure, you need those. I need business. I can't deposit page views into my bank account.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, Eric and I get very worked up about this because a bunch of people sell snake oil and we hate that. Anyway, back to the episode.
Yeah. But the result that you're looking for from paid search, SEO, and social media are leads and hires. So if I'm going to do you justice, I'm going to report on those. And that'll be a theme that's going to be consistent throughout. And so immediately, again, I would start spending our money on the paid search channels. I'd also be spending on social. I would be promoting the videos that we're producing. I'd be promoting the SEO content that we're posting to the website. And I would start spending some money on some Facebook ads, specifically Facebook ads to go retarget the people that are going to our website and going to our pay-per-click ads because I know they're interested in a divorce. And then again, I would look at the numbers with you and based on what's hiring, so those 3 sales, whatever is hiring us at the best rate is what I'd allocate the majority of our money towards. But as long as my system is producing sales at $1,100, I would be mainly focused on scaling over fixing. Does that make sense?
It does, but double click it, do it.
Sure. If at the end of this month we spend $16,000 and we get 15 sales, next month, I probably, if I were doing you justice, I would not tell you to fix ads. I would not tell you to do an A/B test. I would not tell you to deploy a new channel. I would not tell you to go redo the website or the homepage. I would tell you, well, let's just scrap the $2 million goal. Let's try to double it. Let's spend $32,000 and go for 30 sales. Cool? Why would I do that? There's another thing from Alex Ramosi called the more, better, new framework. So if you're doing something already, the $16,000 to get 15 sales, you know that works. So doing more of it is one of the lowest risk options you have because it's already working for you. So when you want to grow your business, more is the lowest risk move on the table if it's possible. And it's typically one of the highest leverage because of its certainty. And so when you want to grow a business, if what you're doing is working, you should do more until you can't do more anymore. Like let's say you're paying all the money to paid search, you're paying all the money to social, you already have all the salespeople you could possibly hire. Once you've done as much more as possible, which that ceiling is high, at this stage you probably can't hit that ceiling. Then you go to better. So, okay, I can't spend any more now on this Google ad that's working. Now I should probably test the ads to get a higher click-through rate so I can spend more on it. And then once I do better, I go right back to more. And we go through that loop unlimited times until we get as big as we can, which by the way, you could probably jump from a few $1 million run rate to an 8-figure run rate in just a year by doing that process. If you get one thing from the video, just do that. Next, once you've done as much more as you can and you've done as much better as you can, then we're going to move to new. So like, okay, I've tapped out SEO, I've tapped out LSA, I've tapped out paid search, I've tapped out social. Maybe I'll do, I don't know, maybe I'll start investing in AI. Or maybe I'll start doing some like local events, or maybe I'll start doing like direct mail, whatever it is. And so that's the framework I'd play here. So pretty much my whole goal of that is the second I'm winning, I'm scaling. And I'm not fixing.
What do you see people usually do?
Fixing. Most people fix there. The example I gave you earlier, the firm that was, they were spending $700 to acquire a $30,000 case, and they were worried about lowering their cost of acquisition. And because again, we have limited resources against unlimited options, they could put all of their resources, focus, and attention on scaling and double or triple their firm in a pretty quick time, rather than worrying about like ads and distracting their agency with those kind of things.
So that's the difference between pretty much optimizing and maximizing. You want to maximize.
Yeah. Now, when you're losing, let's say our cost of acquisition is $4,000 and need to be $1,100, that's when you should be fixing. So that's why I always ask the question at the beginning, what does our cost of acquisition need to be? Because that will be our filter. If we're winning, I'm going to hit the scale button. If we're losing, I'm going to start fixing certain things. And then fixing would come from what we talked about earlier. If I see LSA has a $1,000 cost of acquisition, pay-per-click has a $4,000 cost of acquisition, I'm just going to put more money in LSA for now. Because this is another concept that people don't realize. Every one of the channels that I named, you can, other than very, very small areas, you can get almost unlimited volume out of. So you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on pay-per-click, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on LSA, you can spend on your SEO, and you can also spend it on social media. So all of the channels are very scalable that we're talking about here. And so at this point, if you can scale any single channel, you should do it.
Okay.
Heavy.
I'm pretty happy with my chief revenue officer. He's just outlined an exact plan to get me to the 5 million mark.
Mm-hmm. And so really quick, both of our plans, 0 to 1, 1 to 5, what have we not talked about?
Shiny stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't really talked much about colors, and a lot of our clients focus on colors. We haven't really talked about our homepage. We haven't talked about a lot.
Chatbots.
This conversation that we've been having the whole time about numbers, scale, cost of acquisition, cost per leads, sales numbers, this is how your conversation with your marketing team should go. This is a marketing conversation. People confuse a creative conversation with a marketing conversation, but this is how you make money.
Yeah, unfortunately, if the people you're trying to hire don't talk like this, they probably don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We've just been in too many rooms with people that don't know, and they try and fluff you with page views and crap, and it's really annoying. Okay, so we're gonna try and get from 5 to 10 now, and I think you'll be surprised that this level is not gonna be a whole lot different than what we just talked about.
Mm-hmm. We'll turn it over to you, Elliot. Now I've made it to 5 million, and I want to get to 10 now. You're my chief revenue officer. What are you telling me to do? And assume that we've done everything from the previous firm. So you know our cost of acquisition, you know our lead numbers, our closing rate numbers, our sales numbers. You've already have the sales team, you have the intake team, you have this engine running. What do you do now?
Okay. So, by the way, if you ever ask somebody advice and they don't ask you questions, it's probably bad advice. How many people are on my intake team and my sales team? And how much are we spending on marketing at 5 million?
So right now, I'm a $5 million firm. Between my agency and all my ads, I'm spending $41,000 on ads. I'm getting 38 cases a month. My average case value is still $11,000. And I'm getting around 387 leads per month. Our team, I have one person for intake for business hours. For overflow, I have an intake service. And I have 2 salespeople right now.
Okay.
They're each doing, 15 to 20 sales each.
Okay. I'd be curious how many calls are going to the intake company.
Hmm.
Are there a lot going to the intake company?
Half.
Okay. And are we having any problems in our show rates? At this level, things are starting to probably break. Are we having any problems with our show rates?
Yeah, our salespeople are booked out pretty far right now, about a week out. So we get a lot of people who no show.
Okay. So the first thing I would do is if we're starting to slip on show rate and our cost of acquisition is increasing, is I would hire another intake person and another salesperson for sure. Reason I would hire an intake person at this level is I want to start creating a really remarkable experience for everybody that comes through, and answering services traditionally don't do that.
Yep.
So intake is going to know the mission, the vision, the values of the firm. I'm hiring another salesperson so we can pull those meetings forward, and my show rate's going to increase. And just by the very nature of us doing that, we're probably back into KPI. Are we in KPI? Let's just pretend we are.
Yeah, we're hitting KPI. We're acquiring customers at $1,100.
Okay, so at this level with 387 leads, I'm just focused on getting more leads at this point. If all my numbers are intact, I'm asking, can we double the budget? And so if we can double the budget, I would simply go down the sources of the lowest cost of acquisition first and put all the money I can there. So let's just say it's PPC. I'm putting all my money in PPC. I'm putting 20,000 of it per month in PPC. Then I'm going to LSA. Then I'm going to social. And that can probably take me to around 600 to 700 leads pretty easily. My SEO is going to be increasing. So if I can't put more money into PPC, LSA, social, which, by the way,
You can.
yeah, you probably can. But if I couldn't, I would start to look for another location, a satellite office. And how I would pick that would be, I would not just randomly go buy one. First, I would run ads in a few locations and see.
Wait, do I need an office location to run ads or get leads from specific cities?
No.
Like I want to grow in a city that's 30 minutes away. Do I need an office to start growing there?
Good question. You do not. So the first thing I would do is I would run ads in those areas to scout where do I want to put my office.
Local SEO pages too?
I would do that. Those are going to take a little bit longer. I'd be doing that anyway. That would have been part of the strategy from the start.
Yep.
But I would run PPC, LSA with my biggest LSA profile I would add the location. So let's say I'm in Tampa right now. I would want to see, is West Chase better? Is St. Pete better? Is downtown Tampa better? Is Bayshore better? I would run some tests in all of these markets and start to see where are my best people coming from. How I would do this specifically is I would start to add on my intake calls a little bit more information gathering, where they're at, what their job is, potentially what their income is, and what their assets are. After I did that for a pretty extended period of time, like at least a couple hundred leads, I would then run an analysis on where are the best cities with the best leads. And I might find nothing, in which case I would just pick the best place that I want to go have an office in. Long term, I want them in all the places, but that's how I would choose in order of operations.
So one thing Elliot talked about there, and this is relevant for all 4 stages we're going to talk about today, when trying to identify his ideal client, did you ask the team, who do we like working with the best?
No.
Did you think to yourself, who's my favorite customer?
I think that's important. I think you should like the people you work with, unless you're just optimizing towards money.
Yeah, or the type of cases you want to work. That's if you want to stay in production.
Yeah. I still think, though, it's important to at least like the people you work with. And, of course, they need to have the right case values. So I would literally pull that information from an expert.
But would you be polling your intake and your sales staff, like, have the leads been good this week?
Nope.
You just look
This is going to sound terrible, but if you've ever seen that movie, The Departed, I would treat them like mushrooms. I'd feed them shit and keep them in the dark. But no, I wouldn't treat my salespeople bad. However,
I'd treat them amazing.
I love salespeople. They're like my people. However, salespeople, when they're winning, they're the best. When they're losing, it's always the leads. It's never their fault, right? And if you actually come across good salespeople, because there are a bunch out there, they will take accountability for when they're not closing. So I never ever take what they say seriously, because they're always going to want better leads, as they should. And marketing is always going to blame sales, which is never good. They should be working together. I don't believe in having them separate. They should be a team. That's a side note. That's a side quest. So
side quest, but it's important. So in this 5 to 10 stage, like the one thing I was going to say, so obviously the easiest thing they could do is just do a heck of a lot more of what they're doing 1 to 5. Like you can get from 1 to 10 doing all the same thing. So the more button is there. What I would suggest is starting to build, like become legit is what I would say. Build out SOPs. How much outreach do they do for form leads? How much outreach do you do for phone calls? What is the follow-up post-case evaluation? Can you take those numbers and throttle the volume? If you follow up 2 times after a case evaluation, can you do 20 times? Can you do a phone call, email, text message? So I would really nail the volume required to win and have very clear SOPs around that on the marketing and the sales side. What CPLs do we need? What creative is starting to work? Because 5 to 10 is where I wouldn't start implementing branding. I would be really thinking about it though. So like when we do ads on Facebook or on Google, do we have a unique billing model that all of a sudden is becoming a value proposition that people are loving? Do we have a unique way that we actually service the clients that people are loving? What are the value propositions that are hitting? And can I test more of those? Like, can we do, because at this point you're making some money, you can blow a little bit of money just to test concepts. Can you run tests on Facebook to see which concepts work better? We don't have to guess. You asked earlier about like, should I be writing a book? Should I be doing podcast? The things that I would write my book about and the things that I'd be talking about in my podcast would heavily depend on what's performing in the ads. So I would be testing those things now, because once we get to the next stage, they will become really important.
Yeah, at this stage too, once I have about 1,000 leads a month, or I'd say actually like 600 to 1,000, anywhere in there, every single month. And we actually have firms that have done this. Side story. So we do sales training every single day with a bunch of intake and salespeople. And every once in a while, I host a competition of who can set an appointment on a lead that's older than 7 days. And the first one that wins a Starbucks gift card. It's a lot of fun. And so when we do this, it usually takes like 5 minutes to set an appointment on old leads. So at this stage, I'm hiring people dedicated to working old leads. That is their only job. And now what I have built inside the firm is these people are my outbounders. They only call old leads and reactivate people. They should be setting 10, 20, 30% of your old leads per month. Free appointments, free money. This is going to bring down my cost of acquisition
Significantly.
It's also going to put me in the driver's seat. So if Google has a bad week, I still have a good week. Huge, huge unlock. Next, what I would be doing is building career path for those people to get to intake people to get to sales, and then sales people to become sales managers in pods. Now I have this nice little ecosystem in my firm to actually build careers. You start at the low end shoveling shit, pretty much calling leads because nobody likes to do it.
Yep.
Your KPI is 80 calls a day or more, and you get paid per appointment you set. Intake gets a little bit of a bonus on appointment, but you're literally getting fed leads, so you're not really working that hard.
It's easy.
Salespeople obviously get their commissions, and then managers get a commission. However, but I now have a fully functioning sales team at this level, even though it may be like 1 or 2 people at each stage. That I think is going to be a big unlock in bringing down my cost of acquisition and really starting to build the engine that becomes pretty hard to stop.
Yep.
And so realistically, 5 to 10, I feel like is an easier stage because now you have a little bit more money.
One thing I have seen though, Elliot, in this stage, multiple firms that we've helped actually get to these stages is, hey guys, the marketing and sales are going great. I don't have enough lawyers. We're not going to get into recruiting for this podcast, but I do want to ask you, Elliot, should I pause my ads and should I pause everything right away?
There is not a deadlier sin than pausing your ads.
When it's working, especially too, right?
We did this once way back in the day. Remember, we were like, you know what?
Yeah.
Like we're getting too busy. Let's pause. And it just never came back.
Yeah.
But the answer is not just no, but hell no. You never pause. You never slow down because here's how I think about this. It's the easiest it's ever going to be today. Why do I say that?
Why would it get harder in the future, Elliot?
Because more firms are getting more sophisticated.
Yep.
People are getting more spoiled. Costs are always going up, always.
And those things he's saying are literally guarantees.
Yeah.
The cost of advertising has done nothing but increase.
Yep.
People have done nothing but become needier. I mean, think about Amazon's business. People, like 2-week shipping used to be amazing. 1-week shipping was great. 3 to 5 day, you'd pay a huge premium for that. Now it's like, if it's not going to arrive at my house between 1 and 5 today, I'm probably not buying it.
Yep. So to put some numbers on this, I keep saying 3 years. It was actually longer ago, but I think like 5 years ago, costs of lead for like family law firms were like $30.
Yeah, it was like 30, 50. It was insane.
Yeah, $30. We're now looking at some markets like 180.
Yeah.
6 times. So it's going to get harder. If I'm going to grow, I'm going to grow today. And I'm going to try and grow as much as I can today because it is going to get harder. And you have the big bad private equity guys coming in. They're going to come take your lunch. They're not going to slow down.
Yep.
And they're going to drive cost up. And so to me, I want to grow as fast as possible, build the organic flywheel as fast as possible so that I get the wins of brand and organic early on.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not slowing down. I'm finding every way to hire attorneys. Usually when we talk to firms that say they can't find good help, when I ask them how many, how much are you spending?
I said, we're not going to recruiting.
Okay, fine. Let's not go into it.
But pretty much what he was going to say is you're not even trying on recruiting. And start trying.
If you did what you were doing on marketing and spending, in this example, I think $41,000 a month on recruiting.
I'd literally be a CRO. What can you pay to acquire a new recruit?
Yeah, exactly.
What are the appointments? So
let's not go into it.
I know.
So now we've arrived at 10 million.
One more thing on the recruiting thing, just specific advice. So if you have hit a recruiting bottleneck, but your marketing and sales are working, keep doing it. Refer out the business, schedule people later, just do what you have to. Even, again, this is where early stages is tough to talk about risk tolerance because that's very personal. At this point, you're making some money. Keep spending the money, keep generating the leads, keep feeding your team, just keep going.
Yeah.
Even if you have to refer every single sale to someone you hate in town, just keep going because the machine is more important
Not only
than
that,
the sales.
Yes, the machine is more important. If you start killing your salespeople's pay, they're going to leave.
Yep. Keep everyone happy.
Yeah. So
pay them on a full month.
You got to just go figure out the other problem. That's your number one concern. It's a good problem to have. So we have now moored our way because realistically, what we did from 1 to 5 will easily get us to 10. I don't want to say easily, but it will get you to 10. It's rinse, wash, and repeat at this point. Mm-hmm. We're now at 10 million bucks.
And usually, by the way, when they're passing in the 1 to 5 range, somewhere in there, if the lawyer wants to get out of production, they're getting out of production.
Yeah, for sure.
So life is getting better through these stages, a lot better. We've seen it happen to a lot of clients where their life changes drastically during these stages, and they just start to become a real business owner, enjoy their life, and just run the firm. But let's talk about it, Elliot. 8 figures, 10 plus. What should I be thinking about? What should I be doing? I know I have my thoughts. I'm sure you got your thoughts, but let's hear about it.
At 10 million, I'm now starting to focus on my brand and building it into a household name. So I'm probably running a lot more social. I'm running a lot more social media. I'm spending as much as I could possibly spend on Google. I'm spending as much as I could possibly spend on LSA. I'm getting aggressive on my SEO. I'm trying to get as many reviews as possible. If you notice, everything here is max, 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 max.
Yep.
It's going to be hard to spend this money now.
Yep.
On social specifically, what I'm doing is I would be running many, many webinars. I would be running simple brand messages, and I would be testing them to see what message resonates the most. Simply, we're the best of family law. Obviously not that, but whatever my value propositions are at this point are solidified, because now I'm going to go all in on them. So if it's predictable billing, if it's flat rate billing, if it's we only work with men, it's we only work with women, it's whatever my niche is, I have a niche and I'm the best at it. And I am permeating that message through the market, through social. I might be doing TV. I'm definitely doing YouTube. I'm definitely doing LinkedIn. And I'm just doing a shitload of volume pretty much. At this point, I should be getting around 1,000 to 2,000 leads a month. And that's what I'd be marching towards. I would have my outbound team crushing forms all day long, reactivating people. And I would also have an outreach team to try and create partnerships with other law firms to try and create a B2B component where the gift keeps on giving.
So you'd be still doing a shit ton of volume, just maxing, just mooring everything.
Yeah, let me put some numbers on that, by the way. I'm probably spending 6 figures on Google Ads. I'm probably spending close to 6 figures.
Or even over 6 figures.
Yeah, probably. It just depends on my market,
on LSA.
Right? On LSA, probably like 50-ish, maybe more on social. I'm probably testing TV at this point to see what messages are hitting. I don't think I would touch billboards, honestly, at 10 million. I wouldn't mess with billboards.
You can if you want.
Yeah.
At this point, you can at least afford to scratch the issues you want to scratch. So if you want to try billboard, try radio.
I feel good.
If you want to try AI, you at least have enough money to experiment, lose money, and be okay with it.
Yeah, but at this point, I am just more, and I'm starting to really get the brand out there.
So you've taken the volume dial, you've turned it all the way. And yeah, the second thing you said is you start to focus on brand. And specifically the message that you want to bring to all parts of your state, pretty much. You just want to just dominate. So you're doing volume, you're doing brand. What else at this stage?
I would say 10 million plus. If I'm starting to have the budget for it, I'm starting to look at acquiring firms, probably for talent purposes. Not really, like you're not really taking their book, but if you get it, great. But at this stage, we tend to see that you need to start acquiring solos or smaller firms and bringing them into the fold so that you can get the attorneys. That would be a big part of it. But I think you're going to get some revenue. And if I were doing that, I would try and target firms that have good lawyers, obviously for the talent piece, but also have decent digital assets that I can redirect into my brand.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I think you just do that
Yeah.
and you keep going. And by the time you know it, you're at 20 million and you're crossing that pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like the only thing I'll add to that is I agree, just more, and yet still at this point, believe it or not, most people don't believe this, you still have limited resources against unlimited options. So the things that we were doing before, we're just gonna do a heck of a lot more of now. But at this point, you can afford to start thinking about new things. You can probably start thinking about like, I gotta get ahead of this chat GPT thing. I gotta, maybe I do try the chat bot. Maybe I do try like the webinar thing you're talking about. You can experiment at this point, but I would never experiment at the expense of the things that we're doing that's working still.
Yeah. Well, one more thing too, you're just expanding your locations, and realistically, I believe if you're in a big enough state, you can get to, 50 million probably. I mean, the state, like I'm thinking of like Texas, California, New York, you're going to get pretty big. However, at that point, you're more than likely completely out of the day-to-day. You're actually, like at this point, a CEO. And what I would be looking at if I'm trying to optimize towards max revenue is what ancillary practice areas can I roll into it that would increase my lifetime value. So I would at this point 100% have an estate planning arm that's super high margin, and I would sell everybody that gets a divorce an estate plan.
That's an interesting point that you said, estate planning. So 0 to 10 million, you didn't really say add on any practice areas.
No, don't need them. But at this point, at 20, I have so many customers. It's a crime not to monetize them.
Yeah.
And I have the focus myself to go see this through, unless I hire somebody to just go see it all through.
That cues an interesting thought of, we've talked about a lot of things to do to get through these stages and all the right things, but we haven't talked about a lot of the things that I wouldn't do during all these stages. So if I'm a $1 million firm and I just want to make more money, I'm not going to add on criminal defense if I'm family law or estate planning. It's a huge distraction. I'm also not going to just buy offices just because I think that's the way it's going to grow. Like we talked about earlier, I'm just not going to be constantly thinking that growth happens through buying different offices. It's kind of a waste of money. You get more ROI on ads. What are some other things, Elliot, you can think of that you would not be doing through all of these stages?
I would not be building my personal brand yet. So you're just not.
At 10 million, would you probably start to do that?
Mainly for probably recruiting purposes.
Unless it's for fun. If you
Unless
want to
it's
do it for fun,
or you're trying to build something for a different venture in the future. But like I would just stay laser focused on family law and growing the machine. That's it. And then, like I said, around the 10, maybe 15 million mark, maybe I'm adding other practice areas. It's going to be a temptation all the way through.
Yep.
But you don't
it's even
know
going to be,
you don't know.
even within the practice area, it's going to be a temptation to add different SKUs and moments of pain. Like maybe we just do like a weird uncontested product just to get some sales, or you know what, modifications are hot. Let's just do a ton of marketing around that because it's a law changed in my area. Let's do a ton of marketing around that, but still with limited resources against unlimited options, just go buy the contested divorces or whatever type of divorces are the most important thing to you. Just go get more of those. So those are some distractions that I think can be very dangerous in marketing. Is adding on practice areas, adding on channels unnecessarily, guys. Paramount Plus is doing a new ad package. I see that, you know, those kind of things.
I get that too.
And so just throughout this whole thing, focus is key. Focus is key. Just the more better new framework. Like it was also, this is the third reference to him, Alex Hormozy. He said that literally he has so many ideas in a day. So just to scratch that itch, he has a document that's Alex's big ideas. I also created a document that's Erik's big ideas, just so I could I had this great idea for marketing. I'm just going to write it all out and I'm going to pitch it to Elliot and then we're going to do nothing with it, but I at least feel good about it.
I mean, there's also Jeff Bezos was talking about, he has enough ideas to destroy Amazon and you have enough ideas to destroy your firm. And you have to release the work at a rate that your team can actually do it. And if you add 3 practice areas in 1 year, they're not doing that work. Or they're just doing 3 things really terribly.
Yeah.
So with that, right, we got to $20 million. And if you're wondering how long would that whole journey take, the fastest we've seen it done is around 5 years. Realistically, the swampy part is in that 1 to 5. That's where people get stuck. And it's usually because they can't close cold leads and they can't recruit. Once they get past that hump, it seems that they kind of blast past the 5 to 10 valley. And then 10 plus is just doing a whole lot more, which is exciting. You got good problems at that point. So this episode was all about the tale of 4 law firms. Hopefully you enjoyed Fun with Founders. We will see you guys on the next episode.